states, and you'll find Connecticut.
Take a look at the map of Connecticut, and you'll see the place of my birth.
It's the grandest place on earth. Willimantic, my hometown. There's a good main street where good neighbors meet. Miles of smiles keep chasing you around. You'll be living, life's worth living. Once you're here, you'll stay. We have everything to make a man a king in Willimantic, USA.
That raises.
This is Ken Fulham, the voice of Windham, here on WILI 1400 and 95.3. Welcome to another episode of Windham Weekly with my co-host, Mark Doyle. Today we have an extremely special guest who was smart enough to book herself on the #1 rated show,
Right.
Her first time with the media, because I'm a big-time media star here in Willimantic, Dr. Iris Gomero, our new superintendent of public works.
Public Works.
Smoke. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Star.
Our new
A star is
superintendent-
born here.
Sorry, they're
A star is
Don
born.
down to the Public Works Department. Our new superintendent of public schools here in Windham. She's going to be a breath of fresh air and bring energy and excitement to our district, improvement, and I have a feeling a lot of love. So, Mark, I'll let you start off with some questions.
Let's let the people know that the board took our time. We hired Iris through a very in-depth procedure. We actually ended up with 13 candidates for the position, which we narrowed down to 7 that we actually interviewed the first time, and then down to the final 2 that we interviewed. And by far, Iris was the unanimous choice of the board. So we're looking forward to some excellent opportunities. I think once you get to hear her background and how she's gotten to where she is, I think you'll also agree with us.
Listen,
Sorry about that.
I welcome everyone to call today, especially Mr. Patrick Risley at the high school. Dr. Gomero said if you don't call in at 456-1400, she's going to be rather disappointed. And maybe, just maybe, your career might be going into the sunset.
So now we have union problems. I can see them
Oh,
now.
please. Give a call, Pat. She'd love to hear from you.
So let's just start with your background. How did you get into education? And because I think, as we've looked at it, your background mirrors a lot of the folks that we have here in our school system.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I was born and raised in a small town in the center of the island of Puerto Rico called Barranquitas. Come from very humble beginnings. My parents had very limited access to formal education. My mom had a 4th grade education. My dad had an 8th grade education before he was drafted to fight in the Korean War. And so education was very important for them. They knew that in order for us to have opportunities, I'm the youngest of 5 siblings, in order for us to have opportunities that they were not afforded, we needed to have a strong education. So when I was in 11th grade, I decided to move to Hartford, Connecticut, and search for better opportunities. And I'm a proud first-generation high school graduate, proud first-generation college graduate, and the first one in my family to have earned a doctorate degree. And so education is very important to me. I am passionate about education, and because it changed the trajectory of my life, it's important for me that every single student has access to a strong education or quality education. And so, in a nutshell, that is where I come from and why I'm so passionate about education.
Where did you... Listen, I could tell you the story of my family. It's...
And he will, folks.
No, I won't. We're going to limit your conversation today, Doyle, so that we can get information here. So, yeah, I can honestly tell you another time, it's very, it was like listening to my family story. But the question I have for you, where was your undergraduate and graduate work done at?
So my undergraduate is from the Inter-American University in Puerto Rico. I have a bachelor's in elementary education in TESOL. My master's is from Trinity College in Hartford. I have a master's in English literature. I then went on to get a 6-year education or degree at Sacred Heart University, and I just recently finished my doctorate at Central Connecticut State University.
Excellent.
An excellent background. What are the things that attracted you to even apply for the Windham job?
When I decided that I wanted to become a superintendent, I was very clear that I needed two things to happen. Number one, that I was going to be in a district that was diverse. Diversity is very important to me. If you look at my background and my work history, I've always worked in districts that are diverse, that they have a diverse population. But I also wanted to make sure that my skill set and my knowledge and my values were in alignment with the district. And so I am someone who is bilingual, someone who has experience as a teacher, as a building leader, as a district leader. I am a champion for equity, for ensuring that every student has what they need to be successful. So I wanted to make sure that the district that I chose was a district that was in alignment with those values and my experience. There's certain districts that don't need me. So when I saw the opening for Windham Public Schools right away, I became interested. I know that over 73% of the population are Latino or Hispanic, that you value the second language of students. Not only do you support it for the students who are bilingual, but for every single student in the district.
Yeah, I'm sure you're probably familiar with our Compañeros program, which is, I believe it was the first in Connecticut that started that program. I was on the board when we did that, and along with Gene Romano, who was the special, not the what's it, I can't remember what we called him back then. I guess it was the bilingual director of bilingual education, and it's still going on. So it's had its 25-year anniversary. So it is a commitment to using the population, because we get the kids immersed in both languages. So hopefully we can continue.
Absolutely, and it also tells me that you value the culture and the background of the families in Windham Public Schools, that you see them as assets, and you see that second language or learning a second language, you see it as an asset. And so that commitment you don't see in many districts. And so that is definitely something that drew me to Windham Public Schools.
So in Manchester, where you're currently still employed as the assistant superintendent of human capital, or human resources is what I like to say. What talents are you going to bring to that? Because we've got a pretty committed and dedicated staff now. And I'll tell you, one of my lines that I've always used back in my time on the board was, because in the end, mom or dad is a teacher. They're working that to make a living, as well as to share that gift of knowledge. And to me, it's a skill and a craft. It's not, you're not building widgets. So with that said, we're not like the top paying district. It's just not, it's not in our cards, but yet we continue to keep people here. So my advice has always been to make the workplace environment as best as possible. What is your viewpoint of all of that working? I mean, you've been around through all the schools now, met with X amount of teachers and administrators, and kind of, you haven't got the whole feel for it yet, but you've got an idea, and especially in your role, I would imagine in Manchester, it's not about negotiating dollars. It's about making people feel good and comfortable, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. We want to ensure that every single student has in front of them, the best and the brightest, individuals who love what they do, individuals who come every day thinking that our students can achieve at high levels. And it's our responsibility to support the teachers and the staff. It's something that, as you mentioned, is at the end of the day, is not really about the money. Individuals, of course, want to be compensated fairly, but also they want to be in an environment where they feel seen, where they feel like they're supported, that we believe that they can do what they were hired to do, right? Yeah. They want some level of autonomy as well. And so the opportunity that I've had to visit with the teachers and some of the administrators at some of the schools, the high schools, some of the elementary schools and the middle school so far, the common theme is that individuals are here because they choose to be here. They want to be here because they love the students, they love the community. They could be in any other district across the state, but they chose to stay at Windham. And we have a variety of individuals who have been here for more than 30 years, individuals who have come and this is their second year or their first year, and all of them shared that they feel like they're in a community where they're treated as family.
I think that's obviously correct, but there's that feeling of, in my opinion, there's a culture of wanting to feel gratified in knowing that they're making a contribution towards the improvement of a student's life. And I think that, that's expressed by their colleagues sometimes, their parents, certainly administrators. I think that's a key component of keeping staff here, that they're motivated every day to make that contribution to see the improvement. Because, as you mentioned, 73% may be Latino, and probably I think we've got to be over 85, 90%. We have to be 85% under the poverty level because they all qualify for now that the whole district does for the free lunch program. So that's a sign of poverty and stress in and of itself. I mean, some people are single parents, some have dad that works during the day and mom works at night, and it's a struggle. Even when you have two parents at home, it's a struggle. And that's what our teachers face every day, and that sometimes gets lost in what the data shows to the taxpayer, and that's a concern of mine, that they don't understand or appreciate the challenges of this particular district. And I was a firm believer, and I still am from back, that poverty is not an excuse to not getting an education. Believe me, and because that was the big excuse. Well, because that's even more motivation. But it's about parental engagement. How do you plan? I found that in my tenure on the board, that parental engagement, you had the highs and the lows. What do you see as tactics or tools to get parents more involved?
I think it's important to not make assumptions about whether or not our families want to be engaged. I tell you, if you were to have met my parents when I was a student, an 11th grade student in Hartford, many of those, probably the administrators or the teachers thought that they were not involved because they didn't have the language, they didn't have the access, they didn't feel welcomed in the school system, and therefore they were seen as someone who was not engaged. However, and at home, the message was that education was important, and that I needed to be able to get an education in order for me to get ahead. So I think first and foremost is not making the assumption that our families don't want to be engaged, and then thinking about what are the barriers that are keeping them from being engaged. Is it a language barrier? Is it transportation? Is it the times when we do activities? Is it that we need to go to them instead of them coming to us? So we definitely need to look into what is keeping our families from being engaged, or what we perceive to be disengagement.
Well, like I said, when I'm some levels of engagement, when the kids are in elementary school, you'll see the crowds. Middle school, you'll see the drop-off. In high school, mom and dad are just waving. And they're still needed. I think it's critical that they're needed at the middle school and the high school level as much as the elementary. As much as the kid might want his freedom, they need that motivation from a parent. And I'm not saying, when I say engagement, I'm not talking about going to a PTO meeting every day and being at a sports community, because the reality is people have to work. It's not all possible, but it's important that they have that engagement. And I think whatever we're doing, I think we could do more of that.
And we can continue to send the message that it's important, even if your students are pushing you away because they think that they're older now and they don't need you. They need you more now more than ever, right? Because of some of the challenges that they will be facing at the middle school level, at the high school level. So we need to be consistent in our messaging and try always to see what are some of the ways that we can continue to get them involved.
All right.
I think we should note that your official starting day is July 1, but you've already spent many days in the system getting to meet staff, because that shows us the example of how you're going to approach the job. So, of the staff that you met, is there anyone that stands out for you? Did you meet with some of the students as well as some of the staff members?
Well, I think all of the staff members that I've met with, I'm not surprised, right? I'm not surprised that they're here because of students, that they're student-centered, but it is something that I welcome, that I'm proud of, and that I'm excited about. I'm joining a community where teachers have been here for many, many years, and they have shared how they have come through the Windham Public School system. They're graduates of a Windham High School, and they're now back in our schools, giving back to the community. So that is something that is exemplary, and I heard that story in multiple spaces where I visited. And also, they continue to share that they just love this community. So that is something that I'm really looking forward to being part of.
And so have you figured out who your favorite board member is yet?
course, you are my favorite board member.
Wow, you got somebody to admit that. Tracy wouldn't give you the.
But if there were others here, I would say they are my favorite as well.
Well, I don't know about that. You don't know what you're missing.
Everyone has been very welcoming.
I'm taking that and running with it. The next board meeting is right over my nameplate. Favorite son. Right there.
Everyone
this
has
is gonna be
been
tough.
very warm and welcoming. I've met not only with members of the board, but with administrators, teachers, students. They're a breath of fresh air, and I just can't wait to get started. But I wanted to make sure that I visited schools and I visited with students before school ends. In July 1st, most of the students are going to be gone, and the teachers and the administrators may be, on vacation for part of the summer. So I felt it was important for me to make those connections and start learning about Windham, about the community, about its history, and everything that makes us a great city.
That was a super good move on your part. Not that it was calculated, but it was a good move because honestly, granted, you were fortunate to live local per se, versus somebody who could have come from out of state and didn't have the opportunity to come in. But yeah, the sooner you got in here and met with these people and got a good feel for it, you're going to do a lot of work over the summer with planning and budgeting and all that, all those issues ahead of you. How do you see on the curriculum end? Are you one of those people that want to come in and wipe the slate clean? Because I had people that would bring in a curriculum and before the dust got on the book, it was gone. And I just wonder, where is your stance on that?
My philosophy is that and I have shared this with my 90-day entry plan. My philosophy is to first learn from the community. So I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn, I'm here to learn about the history and everything that makes us great and maybe what are some of the challenges. And then after doing that and looking at data and looking at what our results are and whether or not we've implemented things with fidelity, whether we are getting the results based on what we've put in place, then in collaboration with a variety of stakeholders, then we can make decisions as to whether or not we need to change something. It is never a good idea to come into a space and assume that you know it all and that you have the right answer and that you're going to just change things, because that is how people feel as though their voice is not valued, and that is not my approach. My approach is one of collaboration, of learning, of trusting individuals, and I hope that at some point they trust me as well to say, hey, I know that this is historically how we've been doing things, and perhaps, let's look at this other way, right? Because our results, our data is showing that we need to make some changes, but I would never make decisions on my own.
You don't work in a vacuum.
No, I do not work in a vacuum or a silo.
I know you haven't had a chance to, I guess, understand all of the issues, but coming up, we have some major changes going on, and not the least of which is we're moving the fifth graders back into the middle school. When the building was designed, it was designed and built originally to house 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then for reasons lost in time, they pulled the 5th grade back out. But now we're putting the 5th graders back in. So that's going to be I'm going to say a challenging or an interesting transition for probably more for the staff than for the kids. I think the kids will adjust to it. But have you already started to look at a strategy on getting on top of that situation come September?
Well, I had an opportunity to visit the open house, the middle school, and listen to some of the questions the parents had. Of course, parents want to know that their students are safe, that they are going to be connected with someone, that the school has a positive climate. So those questions came out during the open house. So I think the more we can inform our parents about what is it that we do in the building and how do we address and approach all of those things that they had concerns about, the more informed they're going to be and the more they're going to trust us. In terms of the staff members, it's important that we understand as a community that change is difficult. And if you have been in one building for 20 years or 25 years and now you need to leave that behind, you're leaving behind a part of you because it is something that, it was your family, it was your building, it was your home. So understand understanding that change is difficult and planning for that. So being very thoughtful about what the transition looks like, allowing individuals to get to know one another when they're joining another building, that they have opportunities to build relationships in their new community, not only the staff, but the students as well. And so we're going to be engaging in some conversations over the summer as to how do we make that transition smoother.
And I think it's as you say, the people want their children to be safe. I think it's important to get the message out to our public. The building was designed in wings so that the fifth graders, each grade is located within their own wing. They don't mix. It's not like we're going to have fifth graders mixing with the seventh and eighth graders. The teachers and the staff and the children all have their own wing to operate in with classrooms and multi-purpose rooms. So that's an interesting point to make sure people understand that we worry about the safety of the kids, and we are going to make sure that they are well maintained and taken care of. At the same time, we're going to get the advantages once again of putting all the classes together. So now our staff will be able to do joint meetings and joint trainings. I think that's something else that we're looking forward to.
Absolutely. One of the messages that was shared at the open house was exactly that the fifth graders are going to be in their own wing. They'll have their own entry spots. They'll have their own doors where they're going to be exiting the building, and they're going to have their own small community within a community. So it's important that parents are aware of that. I agree.
Where do you see yourself now? So we're going to have you back, obviously, right after the first bell, okay? And see how you did shaking hands and all that good stuff and meeting the parents, and especially at the elementary schools, but as you move on. Would you have, in your mind, in the back of your head, do you have plans for what you would do for an opening day to make it a little more exciting for the kids? I mean, this community will rally. You're going to see that backpack giveaway like you've never seen. In years past, there's been parents and staff members who put together for the Boombox Parade, a float. The superintendent waves and walks and smiles, gets introduced to the community that way. What do you see?
Well, we are going to.
We're gonna build up your excitement, Iris.
Well, that sounds exciting. I would like a float. I would wave.
Okay. So Pat Risley, you're listening. You're in charge of building a float for Dr. Gomero, and get that under control. Get some older students. So we just booked another float for the parade.
I really think the hidden message there, Dr. Mero, is the fact that Ken has always been a performer. So he has performed at many convocations. I think he would be willing to come on stage with you.
Oh, I would definitely go. I could MC anything you want. Okay, I don't know. I drag superintendents into doing plays with me to support the drama people.
Okay.
I've dragged the superintendent when Danny became to conduct the band for at the high school for a holiday show. I was Santa Claus, of course. We made her dance, this and that, and then we had talent show fundraisers, staff talent show fundraisers, where I did the Blues Brothers with one superintendent.
That's awesome.
And I do so. Just because I'm not there,
we can discuss what the options and opportunities in the future might be.
Listen,
send her your headshots,
you got a good board, okay? None of them have the skill or the talent that I have.
That's right.
So nothing about my ego.
Send her your headshots, Ken, with your bio.
Just call. We'll book a show, because this is what they want to see. They want to see the other side of the superintendent, because I can already tell you're going to be one of those guys and girls or whatever, and you just do your thing. You're going to plow through it. You're going to get things done. You're going to get accomplished, and we're going to achieve success.
Absolutely.
That's the goal, right? That's what
absolutely.
everyone wants for you, right? And for the students, more importantly. But then they want the human side.
Absolutely.
See, I used to wear the shirt and the tie and be a little stiff as it. No, then I said, you know something? They want to know me. They want to know the voice. So this is what it's all.
Absolutely.
This isn't all about Dr. Gomero.
Let me know what the options and opportunities are out there. And
so now Ken wears his furry outfits on Friday night. That's a whole different story.
Doyle, it's time for you to take a break, Doyle. But that's so. Go on. Would you consider you can make some calls to your people today?
Absolutely.
Get them on the.
Speaking of calls, what number can they call, Ken?
456-1400. You could talk to Dr. Gomero or the real celebrity, the voice of Windham.
So
forget Doyle. He's a mushroom.
Have your first opportunity to talk to the superintendent direct. And help, get involved and see how you can help us with our education in the future.
Listen, the school, nothing that Dr. Gamiro doesn't know already. The school is the biggest economic driver in our community or any community, right? It impacts the student lives. That's the most important thing. It impacts your real estate values. It impacts a lot of positivity, whether it's the football team or that team. Whatever team's out there, you guys with girls basketball team, when they win a championship, this town goes nuts. And the athletic department, I was never a big athlete. I mean, I was a superstar, but not big in my day. But they bring a lot of pride to this community. It's one of those things where I'm amazed the amount of support. We just had the kids in the middle school who were doing a play, and they packed the house. We had them on the radio show, these kids. And their teachers.
Oh, so we also had the group for the high school that does the reading program with the Sweeney students.
Oh yeah, these who came down here, impressive. I mean, beyond belief, impressive. And they were 18, so they were able to come without a supervisor or whatever. And they came and they spoke freely, and there wasn't one comment that was negative about their experience through their school district. They loved it here in Windham, and they go-getters. My God, the success they have achieved in our school to take them forward is unbelievable. And so we just I'm going to come back as the cheerleader again, and I just want to push, because I get headaches. I get tired of people for years saying things about our district and about our staff and about our kids, because the kids have ears.
Absolutely.
And so my ask of you this year is going to be, I don't care if we do every show unless we have something really exciting from something that happened, an event-wise, that we get representation from all the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. Contact Mark or I. Get your staff. Let's get these kids out there and showcase what's going on, because otherwise they just see buildings and they see money in the buildings, and that's it. We want to show them what's inside, and the improvements, the blue ribbons that the schools, Natchog School, that almost was unknown until
Absolutely.
Mark and I brought it forward
School
about
of
that
distinction
success
at the state level.
So this is what the community doesn't get, and I'm not being negative about my community. I love this town. It's the most generous town you're ever going to see. When people are in need, it's unbelievable what they do. We got a caller. Oops. Gotta put that in.
Sure, I'll put it in. Hold on.
Yep, we have a caller.
Hold on one sec. All right.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, how we doing today?
Good, thank you.
All right. My question for the doctor is, what kind of partnership or networking do we have with Eastern Connecticut State University, the university right next door?
Well, I know that we currently have some partnerships where students have the opportunity to attend courses that they get dual credit for. And so our students are able to graduate not only with a high school diploma, but they're able to get enough credits, if they're able to get them, to you could even graduate with an associate's degree, or enough credits to have an associate's degree. So I know that is an area that I'm going to continue to look into to see how we can expand our partnership with the colleges that are around us, because they're in our backyard.
We also have
we
also have a very extensive set of volunteers at the Eastern, through their community activity center, sends us a lot of kids who help us with our after-school programming and with our tutoring. So we do have an active group of students with Eastern, as well as UConn.
I also want to know, because I like to brag. So I was just referring to the 3 young ladies that were here a week ago who are seniors graduating from the high school this year. One of them in particular had, I think it was 30 plus credits from UConn, which as a dad, let me tell you, that's great when you don't have to pay for 1 year's tuition. But that's how hard these kids are working and getting the college and being challenged with rigor on their AP level classes. And now they're going to start offering, my understanding is, AP classes as a freshman year. So the relationship between the college at UConn and at Eastern next door is extremely strong.
And that's our goal, to continue to have students have access to high-level courses. That is how we level the playing field. That is how we prepare them for life beyond Windham High School.
Well, I was more in regards of student enrollment from the high school with our neighbor, ECSU. as far as like the kids from the high school getting a chance to be enrolled in Eastern? Do you have a program like that where they maybe their junior year they can start visiting the school next door, and maybe even their senior year after that they can commit to the neighbor next door, Eastern?
Yeah, there's a number of programs like that. I can tell you that every year we have between 15 and 20 students who are attending Eastern. They enrolled after graduations. Then we also have probably 10 to 15 students who also are attending UConn. So we have a strong referral to and QVCC has a number of students of ours that are attending.
I think if you're referring to other programs that go on during the day with Eastern, I mean, I don't know if it still exists, but years past there's been programs where there's a young teachers group. My wife was a volunteer teacher who brought the kids in and led a program over there because obviously Eastern's well known for its education department, become a teacher. And there's other programs throughout the whole system that they tag up with Eastern. So it's very active. I mean, in the relationship between the high school and, well, I should say the Windham Public Schools and Eastern Connecticut State University is a strong thing. Everyone's got the same goal, education, right? Helping these kids with a brighter future.
Yes, well, thank you for your answer, and thank you for your time. And another important issue we should be talking about is we got our Windham Technical School, and like I said, we'd hate to lose that because that's another big asset in our town. And once that leaves Willimantic, I don't think we'll ever get it back.
Yeah, that's an important issue for sure.
That's true. That's a state school, but we can all get involved by talking to our state reps and helping to keep that here. There is some talk about moving it up to Mansfield, but that's not part of the Windham system, so we'd have to work through our state reps. And you're right, that's a very active.
I mean, we're going to lose so much more than just. It's just more than just losing a school.
Right.
There's a lot that comes with it,
Yep.
and we as a community, if we let that happen, it's going to be devastating.
Well, we thank you for calling into the show, and we are happy that you're a Windham Public School supporter. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
So yeah, that relationship is there, and I think again every superintendent has that opportunity to even make it a stronger one academically.
Absolutely, we want to increase the number of students who have access to those types of courses.
But I keep going back to those three young ladies because I was completely shocked and blown away. They were so articulate. They knew what the heck they were doing. They all had plans. They were also proud of just graduating, but I've seen the AP credits before and how that all works and benefits the students, but the amount of credits they had and the preparedness they had for the next step in life was the high school did a great job, and so the district did a great job. And one thing that we learned over the years, there's I don't know if it exists as much as it did back in the day, Mark, but Mark and I commented right away. My question to the young ladies was, how long have you been a Windham Public School student? So they were here from K through 12. And when we have those kids, the data shows that when we have those kids K to 12, they're that much more prepared and successful. They were all three were in the top 10 of their class.
Yes.
Because we obviously have families that come and go and move. It's just part of life for whatever the reasons are. But that's when they shift from one elementary to another. That's why I can't wait for you guys to continue the fight to get that the consolidated school put in place, so everyone's and all the resources are in one spot to help them grow and stay on the same page together. Because every school is different, every administrator is different, every group of teachers is different. But when they're working together and collaborate more, just like at the high school, just like at the middle school, they're working closer together than separate buildings. And I think it's just going to be a benefit to this community.
I think we need to definitely continue to highlight all of the great things that the district is doing. I had a young lady from the high school who reached out to me. She moved to to Windham when she was in 5th grade after Hurricane Maria from Puerto Rico. She really connected with my story, and she wanted to let me know how great the staff had supported her. And she was able to, when she came here, she didn't speak English. She was shy. She didn't, had a difficult time coming out of her shell. And because of the staff at the elementary school and the middle school, and now at the high school, she has been able to thrive. And now she's going on to college. She's at the top of her class, and she's part of leadership groups. And those are the types of stories that really showcase what it makes Windham Public Schools really successful and really I would say a unique community. Is that a young lady who came from Puerto Rico who didn't speak the language received the support from multiple teachers, so now she can tell the story of how great she's doing, and she's moving on to do great things.
And that's what Mark and I want to highlight on this show. And because I can tell you nothing you haven't heard in your own lifetime, because you're a success story. All right, you knew in your life that this is what you had to do to get you where you wanted to be. And my experience in the Board of Ed was nothing but that. It was just seeing and watching things and listening to these kids, and it was amazing. We had one, and I could do a million stories, and this could be replicated a million times across the country, but I think right here in Windham, because it's such a small. So one of my favorite examples is this young boy. I think I met him when he was a freshman. He played on one of my sons on the soccer team at the high school. He was from Mexico. The kid didn't know a lick of English, not a word. By the time he graduated, he was in his top 10 of his class, probably spoke English better than I do, which is not saying much, but he spoke better than I do. His goal was to become a doctor, which he did. All these years later, became a doctor, and in his case, he moved back to Mexico because he wanted to help his community. And I can multiply that story by 100 times. And they used to always say, "Oh, the money from the Board of Ed. I don't want money from the Board of Ed. I'm just committed to this. I believe in this." But the reality of it was, you get that $1 million paycheck when certain kids said things to you. You've also had bad experiences. You have a kid who got into some trouble. Back then, we used to do our own expulsion hearings. And I used to sit there and hear the stories, hear mom and dad, sometimes there's a lawyer, we had our lawyer. The old-fashioned expulsion hearings, right? So your emotions are tugged at, this and that. And so then you end up having an opportunity to speak directly to a student, which in my business world, I don't get that. So I get your paycheck, but you're not getting the satisfaction of seeing you impact someone's life. And I said, hey, if you do this, this, and this, and the superintendent wasn't too happy at the time, but I said, if you do this, this, and this, because that part of that punishment is, of course, you can't be on school grounds. And I said, we'll get you to cross the stage, I'll hand you your diploma, and you have no fear about your future, about going, because he was afraid he was going to lose his ability to get to the college. He came across the stage, and came, and he had sunglasses on or whatever, and he comes across the stage, he says, "You remember me?" I'm like, pal, there's I don't know how many kids there are here. So he took his sunglasses off, and he says, "I made it, and you kept your word. They called me, I was able to cross the stage, and this and that." He went on to have a nice life. He made a dumb mistake when he was in school, but it's not the end of the world. And,
and it doesn't define them as individuals,
no, it
right?
It
and
does
we
not.
all make mistakes, and you should be able to repair the harm that has been done in the community and find a way of moving forward.
Yeah. Like I told my wife at that point, I said, that was my $1 million paycheck, for the year. And and my wife is like so many other teachers in that building. Once they get to a certain point, there's your, I got to do this for so and so. Can we do this? Can we afford to do that? She used to coach girls swim. We need to buy some uniforms for these girls, swimsuits. That was her $1 million paycheck to see them participate. They weren't going to be. None of them were going to be Olympic swimmers, but it was the whole purpose of Windham. Windham gives, and I don't know of any other community, and I'm sure there are, but the amount of giving and donations and help and volunteering that goes on in this community is unbelievable, and I don't think I'm overselling the town. It's got problems, and the biggest problem are the naysayers who just don't want to see the good. So
So we'll continue to share the positive stories and all of the great things that are happening, and I hope we can bring not only individuals from each of the elementary schools and the middle school and the high school, so that we can continue to share those stories.
That's important.
I know we've already set up a board retreat so that we could you could get to know us and we get to know you and lay out some plans for the future, I guess. It's a little early in your tenure, but what is some of you talked about having a 90-day plan. What are some of the first issues you wanted to work on, or have you been able to identify those issues yet?
Well, some of the common themes that I'm hearing regarding, of course, everyone shares what are some of the great things that are happening in the district, the sense of community, being part of La Familia, the care that they have for the students and for one another. Some of the challenges that they have shared may have to do with attendance, some behaviors that they would like some supports with, because we are having some challenges, and this was exacerbated by COVID, that we're still working ourselves out of. And so it's not unique to Windham Public Schools, but it's something that, we definitely want to support our staff with, so that, we need students to be in schools and so that they can learn. So definitely we need to decrease the chronic absenteeism rate.
Yep.
And then if there's students who need some support in terms of their behavior so they can be in the classroom and learn, that is something that we need to look into as well. And our teachers, our staff need to feel supported, need to feel like they have the tools to be able to deal with some of these situations, and so they can be successful. So those are definitely some of the themes that I'm hearing.
So currently, I know we have some outreach workers who, if the child has had chronic, we have some social workers or outreach workers who will communicate with the families to try and get that involved. It's maybe an issue that we need to work out even more, because it's like you said, if they're not here, we can't educate them. So we need to get them into the classrooms.
Absolutely, that needs to be our top priority, to ensure that every single student comes to school on a regular basis.
So, opening day, meet and greet, take it all in. Within a week, we need you here.
Absolutely.
Because you're on the number one show. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is amazing. I don't know why Pat Risley hasn't called at 456-1400, but he's going to hear from me tomorrow. Going forward, then, the testing and this and that's inevitable with everything. I am fearful of the budget situation, and I'm sure Neil's kept you apprised of everything and where you're heading and the potential cuts that you folks have to make. How important is it for this next budget cycle to really? Do you believe in zero-based budgeting, where you might have to look at that? I know you're safe because of the MBR, but as far as having to deal with that.
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge. Something that I've come to realize just in my short time interacting with individuals in Windham is that we have the right people on the bus. Right? We have great teachers, we have great staff, we have amazing students and families, and we have some challenges that we'll need special programming for. And it is impossible for us to be able to address some of those without then also having the resources. And resources equal dollars. So in your household, you wouldn't be able to continue to do what you're doing if you have less income than you did last year, and your light bill went up, your water bill went up, your taxes went up, everything went up, and you have some challenges because you may have some situations at home. And so the same way that we cannot operate that way at home, we cannot operate that way in a district. So we definitely need the support of the community to understand what our budget process looks like, what is it that we're funding. We're definitely investing in the future of our students and in the future of our town, and there's nothing more important than that in my eyes. And so ensuring that people go out and vote and that we are able to pass the referendum, because we definitely need every single dollar we can get to support our students and our staff. And when we start having discussions about cutting positions or cutting programming, number one, our staff members become worried and they may start thinking about going to another district, which does not help us. We want the best and the brightest and the most skilled in front of our students, and we cannot keep them if every year they're thinking about, well, I may not be safe because my position may be cut. I had a conversation with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students today at the middle school, and when I asked, what is the one thing that you love the most about Windham Public Schools, they mentioned the clubs that they're able to attend, they mentioned the sports, they mentioned the great teachers that they have the opportunity to learn from, and we cannot then turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, but we're going to cut all of those things, right? So it is critical that we understand what's at stake and that we support the budget and that we are able to pass it. We should not be struggling every year.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that needs to really shift to the state level in how they restructure funding of public education. And it's a nationwide issue, but the Department of Education being blown apart, no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. But I think this is going to become a strong state issue, and there's going to be some heads that nearly had to wrap around this thing because it's, I get it. It's when I did the Board of Finance too back in the day, so it's a balancing act between what we need, what we can afford. But and I lived through it. I lived through cutting sports at the middle school. I had a son in there at one point who played on the whatever team it was, and it was 6th, 7th. By the time we got to the 8th grade, you're the big guy on campus for that year, and the next thing you know, I came up on a meeting and said, hey, there's not going to be a soccer team. There's not going to be whatever. And it's sad as a parent. Never mind someone who deeply cares about keeping programs going that are worthwhile, and that you and I both know that that's what's holding some kids at school is the athletics or clubs. Well, I've only got one other question, and Mark is going to say, what's that? Because Mark and I have a disagreement on this one. The Yonder pouch. Now, do you have that in Manchester?
We do have a Yonder pouch in Manchester.
Okay, well, really quick because we're in a couple minutes, but I told him a long time ago before they put a policy in place on phones that really would be, I watch it, Central Falls, Rhode Island, there's the smallest district in America, right? It's a 1 square mile district. Poverty beyond belief. It's a tough little town, and they afforded the Yonder pouches, and the principal there and the teacher there that spoke with their improvement of not only just social engagement instead of looking at your phone, but their improvements on their scores went up 30% on an average because of that Yonder pouch that we didn't want to invest in. But
we have
I think you need to look at that.
We have a program that does restrict the use of cell phones at the high school. And I've been told by many teachers, even some that you might be sleeping with, Ken, that the program is working. Is working, and it takes so we don't have to have the expense of buying the Yonder pouches. So we are trying to limit that, and I'm understanding that it has some success at the high school. Maybe Kelly can call in and let us know.
I keep her out of this, okay? She's got enough headaches living with me. So what I'm trying to say is they did it in Manchester. They've done it in cities across this town.
Lowly Rhode Island.
And in Little Rhode Island, where I love.
Why don't we let Iris give us a last minute chat?
Say something.
We got about 30 seconds left, Iris. What do you got there for us?
I'm just really excited to be joining Windham Public Schools. I'm looking forward to meeting more community members starting in July. I will be sharing some of the places that I'll be so that I can meet individuals. I'm really excited to be here, and I just look forward to working in collaboration with all of you. And I'm really proud, and I thank the community for trusting me. This is a tall order, and I'm committed, and I'm ready to go.
Well, it's a warm welcome to have you here with us today in Wyndham.
On the number one show on WILI.
Well, we appreciate your taking the time to come in from Manchester today and do the show. But on behalf of the community, as much as I could speak for them today and Mark Doyle can speak for them today, welcome.
Thank you.
Next week on the show, we have Mark Scrivener, the retired fire chief of the Willimantic Fire Department. See you then.